Welcome to the Power of Owning Your Career podcast, the show for women who are seeking more fulfillment in life and simply not getting it from their current situation. We focus specifically on careers, but hey, we spend a lot of time in our careers, so making changes here will definitely create an impact in your overall happiness. I'm your host, Simone Morris, and my mission is to empower women to succeed. I believe that in order to powerfully own your career, you must decide and claim that you want to sit in the driver's seat. You must know that you deserve better and be willing to not only do the requisite work, but be willing to go out on a limb to ensure your success. Each episode focuses on profiling a leader who is clearly demonstrating ownership of their career. Join me and my guests as we explore career journeys and bring you actionable strategies to use to get into the driver's seat for your career. Because ultimately, your career is your responsibility. Let's get into the show. Hey everybody, welcome to the Power of Owning Your Career podcast. I am doing well and I hope you are too. It is definitely an interesting time that we're living in. And so I get excited every time I get to record a podcast interview, especially when I immediately connect with the guest. And today I definitely connected with our guest, Monique Russell, who is a communications expert. So I'm thinking you're going to want to get out a notepad and take some notes for this interview. Monique, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Simone. I'm so excited to be here.
Awesome. Let us dive right in. Monique, tell our listeners, how did you know that you were in the driver's seat for your career?
You know what? After I finished school, I started in executive support because I couldn't find a job in what I actually studied in. And I realized after really trying to move into the corporate communications, I studied the science of communications and I was trying to get a role in corporate communications and I found it difficult. And after I found it difficult, I went to this women's organization called WATS, Women Aspiring Together to Succeed. And from there, I was exposed to a whole bunch of tools and strategies. And I always talk about the whole aspect of vision boarding because I always set goals, Simone, but I had never used a vision board as a way of setting goals. So I knew after that experience that I was in the driver's seat because things that I had put on my board, things that I wanted to do, conversations I wanted to have in a visual way, they started to manifest within 3 months. And that's what gave me the courage and the impetus to basically say, you know what, I'm going to take control of my career. I'm going to chart out the plan and the things that I want to do and take actions to make it happen.
Wonderful. Well, you've got me thinking about when I graduated from college, and I've got 2 degrees, but when I graduated at the time, I wanted to be a buyer. And so I just knew I was a hot tamale with this degree. I just thought everything was going to happen because I'm first generation in my family getting the degree. And I just was like, I've got a college degree, hire me. And that didn't happen. So, as you're talking, I'm thinking about what a great opportunity that would have been for me to be in the driver's seat, but I still was tied to the expectation that I was owed something because I had invested the time for the degree. So how brilliant it is to hear you say you immediately pivoted, and the vision board, which I love. My first book is on goal setting, so we have much in common, but how beautiful to say you've got this vision and then it manifests, because obviously you doing the work in the back end, but you manifested. I love that.
Mm-hmm. And let me tell you, it wasn't an immediate pivot, let me just say. So it didn't happen right away because like you, I had that same conditioning. Go to school, you invest in yourself and voila, boom. I mean, you're good to go. And we all know how that ends up. It's not the truth. It's a myth. Let's just put it out there. Let everyone listening know that it is a myth. If you are on that path and you're thinking all you need to do is get more and more and more degrees and the doors will just open up for you, we're here to let you know you have to do a little bit more than that.
Exactly.
Change your mindset to have a realistic expectation.
Absolutely. So awesome. So you had the vision board experience, and then, take us a little bit on the journey that followed after you realized, hey, I'm in the driver's seat. So where did you drive to? Take us on the journey.
Yeah, so where I ended up driving to was entrepreneurship. Now, while I was working in corporate America, I was in executive support, and then was often asked for my advice on how to handle complex situations. So, having the background in communications and always wanting to be in the know and be up in everything anyway, people would often ask me, how to structure certain messages, how to have different conversations, how to get engaged with the employees, and I was all a part of it. But then later on, I went ahead and I started looking at things that could be fixed within the organization. I would have my little notebook and I would write down little situations that come up, and I would, sort of make a mental note of the behaviors that I saw some of the leaders do that were really respected, and the ones that didn't get any respect at all. I would take a note of it and I would come up with my own curriculum, if you will, of what I would teach them. So anyway, I went to entrepreneurship route in terms of freelancing. And that's where I started. But when I started freelancing, I did not know that I would be so focused and clear on what I'm doing right now. I started in anything and everything that looked like communications. So advertising, yeah, I could do that. PR, of course. Editing, yes, I got you. Training, whatever. So I did anything and everything that looked like communications under that big umbrella, and I learned a lot of lessons. I learned what I did like to do, what I didn't want to do. I had some experiences where I got burned in business, and I learned the hard way. But through the years, when things picked up, when things slowed down, through the years, I started investing more in myself. That same women's group, that whole vision board experience, I was exposed to other women who were very successful in their businesses, who were very successful in their professional careers, and who were successful at home. They were moms too. And I'm often the youngest one in the group, and I was the youngest one in that group. But it just gave me a lot of wisdom to be around the other women. And that gave me more courage and more impetus to take a look at what they were doing to invest in themselves. And then I looked at the leaders in my organization, and I saw that they were being, steered towards coaching and mentoring and all that stuff. And I said, well, they're doing it, I'm doing it too. So I started investing in myself, and I started to think and behave like the executive I saw myself as. I was like, y'all ain't better than me. You just got a title. So I'm going to give myself a title.
I love that.
And that's exactly what I did. So
I love that. You're saying so many things that I want to jump onto. One, I want to talk to you about risk, having the courage to bet on yourself and take a risk, because being an entrepreneur is risky. And so you decided to go that path and stay that path. And then I hear you talking about being a lifelong student. I am a lifelong student. And so I'm noticing, as you say, you are evaluating what others are doing and taking notes and making your own curriculum. I think that's such a smart thing to do. So everyone, put on the student hat, even if you graduated many moons ago. Start paying attention. There are lessons everywhere. So let's go back to risk. What was going through your mind? What do you have to say to yourself to embrace risk to grow your career?
So I will say that naturally, I don't really feel that resistant to risk, to taking risk. I'm very strategic and calculated. I'm not just do it haphazardly. But I will say this, there were many times where I had situations. I remember one time when my youngest son was in daycare, and something happened at the daycare that really just pushed me over. And I said, this is not going to work, and I have to figure something out. And I went that next morning and I told my manager, I was like, look, I can't do this. I need some time to work from home. And he just looked at me and he said, well, how much time do you need? I said, well, I'm going to be at home for the summer. And he said, okay, when are you coming back? And I said, September.
That's awesome.
And he said, okay, but I believe that it was two things. One, I think I had read that book, The 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss, and there was something in there. And I said, you know what, I'm going to do this. And then the other thing was I felt I was pushed to, find an alternative solution. So I had that impetus driving me that if he said no, I'm just going to tell him, see you later. I'll figure something else out. This is what I need at the time. And if you can't give it to me, then so what? But sometimes it's easy when we have that position, when we're negotiating or asking for things or taking risk. But if we don't have that position, we just need to find ways to think about it so that we do know that there are alternatives. So the whole aspect of taking risk, I say, make sure that it's strategic. Make sure you think about all the alternatives, plan A, plan B. Even if you can't get to plan B, just think through all your steps, all your options, why you want it, and then take a measured action. 9 times out of 10, you're not going to die. You're just afraid, like I was afraid. I didn't know what the response was going to be, but I took action and I learned from it.
Yeah, one of my favorite books around fear is Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway by Susan Jeffers. It's like my all-time favorite book. So, and then there's a book I'm reading now called Do It Scared. So I think fear is always going to be there, but you just have to think it through, like you're saying, and have a plan. And I love the idea of coming up with solutions and alternatives because people are looking to you to be a leader. So to get them on board with what you're suggesting, come in with, here's the problem, here's the solution, or here are some options, here's what I recommend.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. So you are certainly very buttoned up, Monique. Tell us about a time when you were a passenger in your career and what did you do to shift things?
A passenger. Oh my God. The whole time I was trying to find a job in my field, I was a passenger. I was just waiting for someone to give me a chance. I got responses to be a broadcast journalist, and then what they were trying to pay me was little to nothing. And I had already had student loans. I was like, this is not going to work. And when I started in executive support, I said, I'm only going to be here for a year. I'm going to move into Corp Com. I'm going to do this and that. And even then, I was waiting for that opportunity. I built the relationships. I started volunteering for projects. I even got recognized. I got awarded for things that were not even in my normal role. But I enjoyed it because I found passion in it. And in retrospect, I realize now that it was my hands-on practical training. But during that time, I would say I felt like a passenger. So I wasn't really doing all that I could do then when I wanted to move into the corporate communications role. But again, now I know that that's not what I was supposed to do.
And let me just say, because I've done some speaking engagements where people ask me, is it a bad thing to be a passenger? No, I don't think it's a bad thing to be a passenger. I think it's a part of our journey. However, I think if you have a vision for better and more of yourself, you owe it to yourself to move from passenger to driver.
You have to take responsibility. No one is responsible for getting you from where you want to go to where you want to be, where you are now to where you want to be, I'm sorry. But the thing is, most of us just don't have that clarity of where we want to be because we're still playing the same old tape of do a good job, work hard, get more credentials, get more degrees, and opportunities are going to come to you. So I think it's important for women who want to take ownership of their career to stop and pause and really get clear first on what it is they truly, truly want. So many people are in roles that they don't like. They're doing a good job. I mean, they're doing a great job, getting awards, being recognized. Some of them, I work with them. They're my clients. But that's not what they want to do. Exactly. They're not fulfilled. So getting clear, I feel, is one of the first things that we have to do if we want to get more confident and strong in owning our career and charting out our course.
I completely agree, because I remember in my career, I wasn't always clear on what it is I wanted. Therefore, when I sat in conversations where management said, well, what do you want to do next? Or what do you want? I didn't have a solid answer. And therefore, I assumed the passenger position to allow organizations to say to me, you would be great at XYZ. Let's go that route. And off I went. And I would perform, but I wasn't happy. So it wasn't until I realized that, hey, I'm not fulfilled and I've put a lot of time in. There must be more for me. What's next? And I had to take that responsibility and then start to chart my course and start to go after it. So absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What resources, online or otherwise, would you say have really helped you to level up in your career?
Well, I definitely would say Jack Canfield's book, The Success Principles. That has been a really good resource for me. And then I would say coaching. It is one of the fastest ways to maximize your individual success. If you are having challenges understanding, you know, what you're good at, or even just going back to the drawing board, I would say getting a coach is one of those tools that really propelled me and heightened my self-awareness.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think a lot of us don't know that we need a coach. I
Yeah,
certainly had no clue, and I wasn't thinking strategic enough very early on in my career, and that I needed a partner to help me, push me out of my comfort zone and vision and all those things. So I think coaching is excellent. And personally, to train to be a coach, you have to do a lot of work, a lot of internal work. And there's a lot of learning that comes with that.
absolutely. That's why it's so powerful. I think Les Brown said it best when he said, you can't see the picture from inside the frame. And
Mm.
I think that sometimes we feel that we only can work with a coach when we think we need one. But I think everyone can benefit from having that experience at least once in their life. It just takes you from good to great. Even if you're already performing at a great level, it gives you that outside perspective. Someone can hold a space for you to really see what it is that you truly want to do. And you're right, you have to do the work in order to be able to serve and show up that way.
Wonderful. My goodness, the time has gone so quickly. I have thoroughly enjoyed chatting with you today, and I'm sure our listeners are going to enjoy this interview very much. As we begin to wrap up, what advice do you have for someone wanting to own their career?
Oh my God. I would say use the love method. Love yourself. Love yourself. So, first, L, you want to learn. Make sure that you keep a learning mindset. Make sure that you learn new skills, be exposed to new opportunities. And that takes us right into that opportunities, right? So, they're everywhere. Make sure that when they come up, you are open enough to see the opportunities and you can take advantage of it. That may be getting in community, that may be getting exposed to something new. And then V, validate yourself, validate and assess truly, internally and externally. Sometimes we overestimate ourselves and our skills, sometimes we underestimate. But if you want to really own your career, you need to get that outside counsel, that external assessment to say, okay, where am I really? Ask for mentors, ask for sponsors. Where am I really? What am I really good at? I think I'm great at this, but I may not. That may not be my strength. So validate yourself. And then E, expect to win. You have to be in positive expectation. And if you set your mind to it, you can achieve it. So that's my love method. And this is the advice that I would give to anyone who wants to own their career. You have to start by loving yourself. And that's learning, being open to opportunities, validating, and expecting to win.
And guess what I'm going to say? I love it.
I love it.
That's awesome, and a nice way to close, and very memorable. Can you tell our listeners how they can get in contact with you if they'd like to after the interview?
Absolutely. You can reach me on my website, which is clearcommunicationsolutions.com, or just hit me up on LinkedIn. I'm there a couple times a week. So I'm a clear communication coach, Monique Russell, on LinkedIn.
Awesome. Well, Monique, thank you so much for being a guest on the Power of Owning Your Career podcast.
It's been a pleasure, Simone. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for listening to the Power of Owning Your Career podcast. It is my hope that you enjoyed today's episode. You can check out the show notes for this episode on the SimoneMorrisEnterprises.org website by clicking the podcast menu. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes and tell a friend or two about it.